Hit him with the hard flex. I felt like Andy Bernard right there.
Get ready to crush it. Crush it.
Yeah.
This is the Crush It Podcast with Matt and Mason.
Welcome back to the Crush It Podcast. I'm Matt Davis, along with my co-host, Mr. Mason Burchett. Is that how the old Lincoln says it when you get in the car?
The Lincoln does pronounce it Burchett.
First time I got in there and it says, "Welcome, Mr. Burchett." It was life-changing.
Yeah, it's a real nice moment every time you get in the Lincoln.
Yeah, very nice.
For it to mispronounce your name.
Very nice.
Yep.
So, real quick elephant in the room, besides me. Haha, I knew that was coming. Thanks for the fat joke. It's been 3 months since we have recorded a podcast.
It has been a long time.
It has been a minute. And so...
That's actually how we start every episode.
Almost every episode. So, here in about 30 years, we'll hit episode 100.
Yeah,
feel
man.
like a good mark,
Yep.
milestone for us. But really... we have said in the past there's no excuse. I feel like we got some solid ones maybe this time.
Our last episode's title was No Excuses.
No Excuses.
And we're just going to go ahead and throw a couple at you.
Yeah, and so there's been a little bit going on.
Man.
Last episode, or not too many episodes ago, was entitled 2020, What the Crap?
Right.
And you made the statement right before we recorded, maybe we should have waited.
Yeah, that was definitely premature.
Yeah, because it's not stopped. However, what's going on in the year is not necessarily an excuse. However, in the last few months, we've had some good things happen. Mm-hmm. We've had some bad things happen.
Yep.
We're going to really just catch us up to speed. We'll kind of start this off on a good note and then really update some people on maybe some things going on in your life.
Fun.
So basically starting off, as far as business goes, really in a economy that you talk to a lot of people seems to be going down. Both of the companies that we have been involved with and have the opportunity to work with have actually been thriving. I believe y'all have broken several records this month.
Yeah, we've broken sales records 4 times this year.
Nice. We as a company at Homecraft Gutter Protection, we had
shameless plug.
4, right? Yep. We have had 3 consecutive months where we broke records.
Outstanding.
But then also just found out this week that we have we actually doubled what we did already going into October. Here in 2020, we have doubled our company revenue from last year.
Wow.
And so, it's something we're really proud of.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity, one of the fantastic things that I've been able to be a part of is had the opportunity to actually open up an office for our company in the Knoxville market.
That was coming down the pike 2 episodes ago.
That was pretty cool. And on a later episode we'll kind of talk about how that happened. But very thankful for the opportunity with a fantastic company offering a fantastic product, and really hit the ground running. We were covering the Knoxville market as a company, but didn't have an actual office established, and so was given the opportunity there. So, basically, I think that there has been some good come out of 2020. Really looking at it, October 1st, October 2nd, we've started the 4th quarter.
Yes.
Football season's finally back. We
the
make
Braves
the
are
reference.
In the division series.
Hey,
we have
fantastic.
Won a playoff series.
We have won a playoff series for the first time in 19 years.
That's right.
And so we're very, very excited about that. Going to see how they look to disappoint us in the next couple rounds.
2020 has basically been an allegory of life.
You know what? All packed in to one, well, not even a full year yet.
Right. to the first 9 months.
I think one of the guys one of the guys on social media. He's a sports guy. A while back, he said something about, last week was the longest year of my life. And that's basically been the story through 2020.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, let's kind of dig in, for those of you who may not know, Mason's had some stuff pop up in his life recently. And so I'm going to kind of really, I know a lot of people know what's going on and have heard some updates, but just real quick, kind of go back, talk about what happened, how quick it happened, and then we'll kind of dig into where we're at now with it.
Sure, yeah. So, after our last episode, both of us were super busy.
Yeah.
And with business, primarily life in general.
You had lost your grandpa, I'd lost my dad.
That's right. And we had talked about that in the episode.
All that,
and so both of us were still and are still, kind of recovering from those losses. And I was in Charlotte, working in Charlotte one week, and got a phone call while I was up there that one of my best friends that I actually worked on our team had been found in his apartment, passed away, and which was tough because we had just talked that week, a couple of days before we were talking, and we had just gone out to lunch together.
More than a
coworker. I was down
coworker.
there, yeah, we were very close, and so it was very tough. And so, that weekend we went down for his funeral, down to Greenville for his funeral. And I had known that I was having some kind of health issue at the time and had not been to a doctor for it. Haven't been to the doctor since I was like 14, when I was trying to get my pilot's license. But so we went down there for the funeral, and that Monday, the following Monday, I went to the doctor just to get a wellness checkup, make sure everything was okay. And 2 days later, I was diagnosed.
And it wasn't.
Yeah, 2 days later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so, that was a
exactly how you drew it up.
Tailspin, yeah. Yeah, exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Right.
So, it was a bit of a shock, but I was like, okay, well, they were like, well, we need to do more scans. And I was like, well, I have to be out of town next week for work. So I actually went out of town for the week for work, for 3 days for work, because we got to hustle.
Right.
Which is probably not a wise move if you feel like you got symptoms, just go to the doctor. But anyways, came back, did some scans, confirmed the worst. They isolated the diagnosis, and I was in surgery, that next week.
Yeah.
And so came out on the other side of surgery and had some more testing done to see if it had metastasized anywhere in the body. Don't believe that it had. And so based off that recommendation, I'm going to be doing some chemotherapy to make sure that doesn't flare back up. And so that's why we're sitting here bald in the studio today.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. So Mason will be starting that, I guess, on Monday.
That's right. Yep. And, starting chemo on Monday for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we are going to have a good time, ladies and gentlemen.
Fantastic. I actually tried to sign up for chemo as well.
Right.
Just so I could be hanging out there with you.
Yeah, it turns out it's not that easy.
They frowned on it. You know? And I said, hey, it's 2020. We make exceptions.
Right.
But they didn't. They didn't quite go for it.
Too bad.
Company I work for kind of frowned on a week off.
Right.
As well. So,
for
no reason. And so that didn't quite work out. And I will say this, although, it's terrifying, extremely terrifying, kind of being here, watching firsthand, seeing Mason, just kind of deal with this, take the curveballs and keep rolling with it. Really, although cancer is a scary word and it's terrifying and it's never, fun. Really, I think that the Lord's answered some prayers here, and that they feel like after this chemo that it's going to dramatically decrease the chances of this ever being an issue in the future.
That's right. Yeah, they feel that their confidence level of this being cured after chemotherapy is as high as 99%. So,
yeah. We'll take those odds.
We'll take those odds. And to that note, Matt, I do want to say thank you to everybody that has reached out, that sent out letters, that participated in meal trains. It meant more than I could ever express. It was very kind, and I do appreciate the support, the love, every single prayer that was prayed. It's been great. So thank you so much.
And you're also welcome for the $100,000 check I wrote you.
That was great
to help cover things.
You've
not cashed that yet, right?
I haven't.
Okay, good. It was a gesture. We were going to take a picture of it, post it on social media. Right. Lots of praise.
He didn't realize he put his real account number on there.
Right. So I'm a little bit nervous about that coming back. But no, on a serious note, it's kind of it's been 2020. It's been par for the course.
Yep.
But here's the thing: you got to roll with it and come out on the other side and be ready to take on what's next. Be stronger for it.
It was a surreal moment when the doctor sat down and was like, "Look, man, you've got cancer," and I was like, "Okay," and then he's like,
kind of a numb feeling.
I'll see you next week. And I'm like, "Okay." And so I go back to work, and sit down with obviously my the corporate staff knows something's going on at my corporate team, and we have a weekly meeting with our managers, a weekly managers conference call, and we got off the call, and Adam, our COO, closes the doors. It's just me, him, and the CEO, and I was like, "Oh man, this is it!
This is it! Here it comes!"
This is the big one. And he was like, "What's going on, man? Like, what do you need? What can we do for you?" And so I had to tell him, this is what's going on. I've got these tests coming up. It was a surreal moment. It's a crazy
but
moment.
and that being said, and I don't mean to really be stealing your thunder here, but at the same time, I think there's some important things that have happened that have come to light. You've really invested a lot of time, a lot of efforts into the company that you work for.
That's right.
And put in a lot of hours and helped them. And, really for you to be a part of an organization that has been so supportive of you through this and have said, hey, what can we do? Yeah. What do you need? This time that you need for the treatments and for your surgery and stuff, from what I can tell, and, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been nothing but supportive of, hey, you take the time you need, you do what you need to do, figure this out, beat this, and we'll come back and move on. That being said, I do want to say it was mind-blowing and shocking. This guy has surgery on Friday, and what day was it I called you to check in on you, and you were at work?
It was the next Monday.
It was the next Monday. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I just had to come in the office, get some things done. And you can hear it in his voice. The dude's in pain. Now, I get the hustle, but at some point it's stupid.
Probably.
And I could probably get your wife down here, and she would probably amen a lot of this.
Yeah.
But, although it was stupid, how much, had to go home, was bleeding a little bit. What? Are you kidding me, dude? You just had surgery. And, we joke about that. And was it stupid? Yeah. Are you going to do it again? Absolutely. I know you are. But it speaks to the hustle. It speaks to the drive.
That's right.
And, honestly, when you are a true, again, we hate to use the word entrepreneur, but when you've got that drive, a lot of times, and I feel like this was probably the case for you, a lot of times acting on that drive, going to work and pushing is really how you cope with things.
100%.
I can say, not to be, we've both dealt with some similar things here, but through the loss of my dad, thankfully, I was able to, I got promoted to management.
Right.
And I've been able to really focus a lot of my attention on managing and feeling like, and growing an office, hiring, training, building a sales team, helping with the install side, setting goals, working with a team to reach those goals. And, honestly, that I would venture to say that not only has my work drive helped me cope with dealing with my dad. But that tragedy, now, if I could push a button and Dad be back, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Sure.
But basically, what I'm trying to do is take that tragedy in my life and help it drive me to be a better person. And really, I think that has helped me to have the success that I have in just a few short months there in the Knoxville office. And that's the difference. That's the difference in successful people and unsuccessful people. Because a lot of people, when they deal with situations, they hear they have cancer, it's a mental battle. Mm-hmm. And once you lose that mental battle, you're done.
That's right. And, I was there. There was a period of time there, weeks, where we did not know. Has this gotten to my blood? Is it in my lungs? Has it spread to the lymph nodes?
A lot of questions.
We don't know. And so, you're sitting in that space. There were plenty of days after work when I just sat in my car for a minute and I'm like, I got cancer.
I got cancer, yeah.
I have cancer right now.
Well, I can only imagine because I remember when Dad first got his diagnosis, hearing that about your dad was like, it took some time.
Can't imagine.
It took some time. Well, you're the one dealing with it. So that's what I'm saying.
Honestly, though, coming from what you're saying right there, I can feel it.
Yeah.
That energy coming off of you, because I feel like this has probably been harder on my wife and my mom and my brother and my dad who've been around me through this. I feel like it's been harder on them than it has been with me.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I was still grieving the death of my good friend Nick, who had just passed away
fresh.
The week before.
Absolutely.
I haven't really even been able to process those feelings yet, and I was still kind of in that mode while everybody else was like, "Oh my God, Mason's got cancer," And so, you saying that, I get it. Obviously, your dad's cancer was different than mine. I'm not going to try to relate to your dad in any way, form, or fashion, but I can see how different of an effect it is on family members that are
It's
close.
very surreal. It's very, just trying to process that. And so, and another thing that really we can take from this is be prepared. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We're still, by all intents and purposes, we're still very young.
Yes.
And basically what you've worked so hard to do is be in a place where when a tragedy like this came up, it wasn't the end of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You would set yourself up with a company where you could take the time you needed to.
That's right.
Let's say the worst. Now, you're a long, long way from where you want to be financially, but because of your preparation leading up to this, you've been able to. You knew you could sustain yourself and made the proper preparations.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the things. Not getting too much into it, but that's one of the things that really woke me up. Waked. There goes my homeschooling.
Waked
me up. Thanks, Mom. I would say that would upset her, but she don't listen to the podcast, so we're good. But really, one of the things that woke me up and really changed my mindset towards having some personal success was back in 2014 when I got in a bad car wreck. And honestly, when that happened, there was zero preparation.
Yeah.
I got in a car wreck about 12:15 on Friday afternoon. The next thing I remember is 7:15 that evening, opening my eyes in an emergency room with everybody gathered around me, blood everywhere. It was a mess. And after I got on the other side of that, my thought was, what if 7:15 had never come?
Yeah.
What if that was it?
Yeah.
I was gone. I was done.
Wow.
I would have left my wife and two kids. There was no life insurance. There was no savings. There was nothing. And that's when my mindset really started to change because, my wife, who before we met was planning on going to college, decided not to go to college and marry me. Questioned that decision multiple times. She's probably regretting that. But the reality is she gave that up. She stays home with our kids. And then because of my lack of preparation, they'd have been screwed. in our reality. And so it changed my mindset. And I know this wasn't the direction we were really planning on going with this episode.
We didn't really know, but
prepare.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's talk about that for a minute, because I've got another light that I want to shed on that from a different angle. To what you were speaking of, though, yes, you should absolutely prepare, because I can thankfully say, as a 25-year-old, it would have been easy to say, I've got my whole life to worry about dying. I've got my whole life to worry about getting cancer,
right.
And worry about the long-term care and all that kind of stuff later in life. Thankfully I did. I had, and thanks to you too, back in your insurance days, I had multiple life insurance policies in place with riders.
You still didn't buy enough from me, but go ahead.
I have retirement in place. I have money in retirement. I have emergency fund. I have savings. There's the reason I say that is because the first thoughts that came to my mind were not, is my family going to be taken care of? And it's
so much value in that.
There is such a relief.
Yeah.
And not having to go down that path immediately when you hear a diagnosis.
You could focus on getting better.
You want to know what my first thought was? Honestly, it was, and it's
maybe lived better.
Yeah, well, kind of.
Dad was right.
One of the first thoughts that came through my mind was, and like I was saying, it was weird that I had heard of this, and I think it was on another podcast that I heard somebody talking about this, and it's why it was so fresh. But the first thing that came to my mind was, have I done my best? Just as a blanket statement, have I done my best? And plug that into every area of your life. And the answer was easily, absolutely not. Wow. Absolutely not. Have I done my best as a dad, as a husband, in business, to the Lord, spiritually? Have I done my best? If this takes me, did I do my best? And it was easily a no. It was easily a no.
Wow.
Which is probably why I was back at work that Monday. But easily a no, and that has been such a perspective change for me.
Absolutely.
Going into treatments now, and hopefully coming out on the other side of this relatively unscathed. I say relatively unscathed. Matt's laughing at me for reasons we won't talk about on the podcast. But coming out of this with a good prognosis,
right?
And a high cure rate for this type of cancer. I still have that. I know what it is to look at that with those emotions, to look at that decision in realistic light, not knowing for sure what you're looking at. With the cancer, and asking myself, have I done my best, and that being an easy no. Immediately, I didn't have to think about it. No, I've not done my best. I could have done more. I could have done more. What could I change? What could I do different? It was a super sobering moment to ask myself that question.
Well, what do you want me to say now? I don't
know. It's just... It was heavy, right? It's a heavy thing to consider.
Yeah.
Because you feel like that's something even somebody in their 50s and 60s have given you a conversation about that. You're like, okay, it's not. People in their 50s are young, and your dad was. Well, 58.
Dad was 58 when
that's
cancer
young,
took
way
him.
Too young to
Absolutely.
die. Way too young to die. But not that unheard of, right?
Yeah.
Still hear about it. My grandfather on my mom's side was in his late 50s. Still happens, but to get I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, you know, my life is quote unquote just starting.
Yep.
And then for a doctor to sit you down and say, look, you've got cancer. We got to operate now.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You've got to find the balance between living in fear every day. What if I have cancer? What if I have cancer? What if this happens? What if I get in a car wreck? Well, you can't live that way, while at the same time finding that balance and realizing the reality. I could have cancer. I could. That car wreck. You find out you had cancer. You went for a wellness check.
Yeah.
You had mentioned some stuff to me, and I was like, "Bro, you got to get that checked out."
Right.
But that's what you.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
Everybody says that.
Everybody's like, "You got to check that out."
Yeah.
Somebody needs to look at that. Not me, but somebody needs to look at that.
Yeah.
But you've got to prepare. You've got to be ready for that, and I think that's a very important lesson, no matter what age you are. And I'll tell you something that I would like to encourage. I don't know exactly what the age demographic is so far of what's been listening to our episodes. But, I mean, if we've got any young people, in your teens, early to late teens, plan hard. Put money back. Yeah. Put money where it needs to go. I'll tell you this, kind of telling on myself a little bit. I started working full-time at 15 years old. My parents gave me the option to homeschool and work full-time. And so I would get up early, do my schoolwork, and go to work. My brother-in-law had a roofing company, and I would go to work for him. I would do my school, not well, especially if you ask my mom,
sure,
but I'd get it done, and I'd go to work because I liked making money. By the time I was 17, I was still living at home, obviously, and was crew leader for my brother-in-law on his roofing crew, making $18 an hour.
Yeah.
Working 60 to 70 hours a week because what else did I have to do?
Right.
Yeah. And so was making a ridiculous amount of money, especially for my age, for that time. It was crazy.
Yeah.
What did I do with that money? I blew it.
Sure.
I walked into Hollister and dropped $300.
Yeah.
Back when I had a Hollister,
and
a little bit closer.
That's a horrible decision for
no matter
multiple reasons.
For a millionaire, that's a horrible decision, right? So I wouldn't go to the mall without dropping $300 or $400.
Yeah.
My mom, who is one of the best cooks to ever live, absolutely love her cooking, would cook a hot meal. And Mom never just threw something together.
It was the works, right?
It was everything.
This is the South.
I mean, Mom went all out every single night. I would hate, now that I'm buying groceries every week for a family of 5 now, because the baby's starting to eat regular food. Like, I would hate to know what my parents' grocery bill was at that time because of the quality of food that Mom was making for a family of 8.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She would cook that, and you know what I would do? Me and my buddies would go to Red Lobster and drop $20. You know what I'm saying? And so, basically, then I get married, and everything hits like it does for everybody, and I wasn't prepared.
Right. And
honestly, right now, at 30 years old, had I saved and put back some money and prepared for the future back then, today, it wouldn't have just affected the early years, but as a domino effect, I'd be in a much better... I wouldn't be working behind the 8 ball as much as I have been, as I am today. So, basically, if 2020 has shown us anything... Like you said, it's just a great definition of how life is. You never know and who knows what the next 3 months is.
Yes.
You never know. Who knows what's going to happen? It's never too late to start preparing. Actually, it is. No, there's a lot of times it's too late.
I was going to say, that's the worst.
But never. Yeah, that was terrible. That was terrible. My point was, start preparing now.
Right. If you haven't prepared, it's not too late. Start now.
Going now.
100%. And that goes, Matt, I feel like we're on opposite ends of, maybe I'm in the wrong, did I sit in the wrong chair? I feel like we're on opposite ends of the advice spree.
That was the most dad joke. You just, had we not just shaved your head, it would have turned gray a little bit right there. Now he's got his cancer crutch.
Got the jokes. We laugh so we don't cry. No, but I'm usually giving like the practical financial advice, and you're giving the other end of the spectrum. And now it's like you're giving the practical financial advice, and I'm going to go ahead and whip something out.
Who's your daddy?
Jeff Burchett.
Gosh, just move on.
Okay. But yeah, so you're talking
air conditioning work?
Yeah, you want me to turn it on?
It's hot in here.
Okay. That's because it's not on. It works great.
Oh, okay.
I'm preparing. I'm saving money on the heat and air.
All right, you're into the spectrum. What do you throw at?
Yeah, man, it's super hard to do a podcast with Matt because he really just will completely obliterate your train of thought.
You lost it?
I didn't. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew how hard it was.
Well, nobody out there likes me anyway, so just...
That's true.
Keep it rolling.
Yep. So,
why do you think my mom don't listen?
Probably because she doesn't like you.
Boom. All right. What you got to say?
Yeah, be ready financially, absolutely. And like I said, I didn't have to worry about that because I was ready.
Right.
I did have to worry about the other side too. So like you're saying, people need to get life insurance, get a rider on that thing, at least get some long-term disability or cancer policy or something on there. I'm gonna get some life insurance now. Yeah. But it's responsible. At least get a term policy so that you don't have to worry about your family being taken care of, man. And then you can...
Can I throw a plug in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Coming from, because I was in the life insurance industry for several years, people think that, term is definitely the way to go, but people think that a $1 million term life insurance, I don't need that. Sit down and do the math.
100% you need it.
You think about, I'll be honest, if you're in your 20s to 30s, you should be looking at a $1.5 to a $2 million policy. If you're going to accomplish what that money needs to do, if you've got kids, if you've got a family, $1 million isn't as much as we like to think, especially here in the South. There's a little bit of $1 million, but it ain't a lot of money.
I'll say this, that financial advisors will tell you that you should have a minimum 10 times your annual income in life insurance to cover expenses.
That's bare minimum.
To cover expenses and outstanding debts.
Yeah.
That's not to, if you've got a wife that stays at home with your kids,
yeah.
Okay, let's say you've got enough life insurance to pay for your funeral and pay your house off, then what are they going to do?
Right.
Have you got enough life insurance to invest and pay them dividends?
Yeah.
So that she doesn't have to go to work and put your kids in daycare? No, you probably don't. So that's why a minimum 10 times your annual income, you should definitely go above and beyond.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just had to throw that.
Yeah, so that was a great financial.
Absolutely,
financial.
Wish I still had
snippet.
Snippet. There you are with your snippets. Wish I still had my license. I would just send everybody to my website.
I was going to say, but this would be a great place to drop a link.
Yeah.
I don't think we've even got any friends in life insurance that we can plug right here.
I have a guy I know, but I don't think he calls me his friend anymore.
Okay,
so
yeah.
we'll just move on.
So find your own life insurance. Good luck.
Especially after I bashed him at my dad's funeral.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. If anybody was there, then you know exactly who he's talking about.
I don't think he likes me. But anyway, go ahead.
So be ready financially, guys. But everybody's... The big thing out there is ask yourself, what would they put on what would your... headstone read, or write your own eulogy. And man, when you're faced with the prospect, it means something totally different. For real.
Yeah.
And pretend that you get diagnosed with terminal cancer today, or that you get in a terrible car wreck today, and you ask yourself, have I done my best in this area, in this area, or in this area? And apparently Siri has not done her best.
No, Siri's.
And what would the answer be?
Yeah.
And it's a super sobering thought, but it 100%, dude, made me a better person instantly. Priorities started changing in that moment. And I was like, I got to do better. I got to spend more time with my kids.
That explains that new glimmer in your eye.
Yeah.
That I
the
noticed.
cologne, did you smell the cologne change?
No.
Okay.
I'm just glad you started wearing it.
Well, then it worked because I just stopped wearing it.
Beautiful. Perfect. But yeah, make sure that, you want to live for today and you want to focus on taking it one day at a time, but that doesn't give you an out or a reason not to plan for the future, because you and the ones around you deserve that.
Yes.
And, we can even go back to the interview we had with Tyler, and he talked about that, something he saw from his grandfather, I believe it was.
That's right.
Had not prepared the way that they wish he had, and it left everybody in a bind.
When your family's already heartbroken about the loss, the last thing they should be worried about is what are we going to do to live?
Yeah.
What a frightening thought. So be responsible, guys. Get out there. The reason we do what we do, the reason we do this podcast, is to be
twice a year.
Is to be successful and have financial success. But the reason we want those things is not for just selfish, prideful gain. It's to take care of the ones we love.
Absolutely.
To live like nobody else.
Yeah.
In every way of life.
Yeah.
To give our kids a legacy and hand that down to the next generation. That's what this is all about.
As stupid as this may sound, and even maybe shallow as this may sound, one of my goals in life is to never tell my kid, when my kids want something, it's to never tell them no because I can't afford it.
Right.
Now, I'm going to tell them no a lot because they don't need it.
Right.
Or because I'm not going to let them just have everything handed.
Nice.
But I don't want to ever, and right now I do.
Yeah.
But I want to get to the place where I never tell my kids no because I can't afford it. I want to tell them no because it's not best for them to have it.
Right. Daddy, can I have a Ferrari?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to be like,
Because if you start
go
doing
on
that,
your own Ferrari, Mike.
I'll start calling you Daddy. And thanks for tuning into the Crush It Podcast.
But anyway, you know, the I mean that's truly a goal.
That's a great way to look at it.
Because, you know, the reality is nothing hurts worse than not being able to provide for your family. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that was I can't imagine when I got in that car wreck that evening, an image that's kind of just ingrained in my mind is I remember coming to, and at some point I remember looking over, and I remember seeing my wife laying on my sister's shoulder crying.
Brutal.
And here's what I knew. Like, at that time, my life was not in question. We knew we had a long road. We didn't know. Honestly, at that point, they didn't know if I would ever walk normal again. I may lose a lot of the function of one leg. There we go. And I'm also stroking out at the moment. Everything with my hand that was going on. There were a lot of questions, but really my life was not one, I knew what she was thinking. Her thought was, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? How am I going to navigate this? And I'll be honest with you, the Lord used a lot of people, our family and a lot of other friends to help get us through that.
Wow.
And, the Lord was very faithful and taught us a lot of things through that. But it was on me.
Yeah.
I had not prepared the way that I should have.
Right. And I'll say this,
and
because
it hurt
we bring,
to see her that way.
You said something right there that we bring this up sometimes, and it's not because we don't trust God.
No.
But if your safety plan is the Lord will take care of us, you're irresponsible.
Exactly.
And that's a cop-out.
Absolutely.
And so,
it's a crutch.
Yeah, it's a crutch. And so when you die and your family's homeless, that's on you, because don't blame the Lord for you being irresponsible and lazy. Look, I'll share some insight into a real personal part of my family's life. There was not too many, I guess it was a couple of years before I had this diagnosis, that I sat down with Jordan, my wife, and said, I've got my life insurance documentation, the deed to our home, the title to our cars, my financial statements, all of that are secured in a box that's called the legacy box. It's got my retirement plan. All of that's in this box, and instructions. I've got my
quick Dave Ramsey plug.
Yeah, it is. And I've got my will. I'm 25. I have a will, and thank God for it. If you have assets, you should have a will.
Yeah.
All of that is in a box with a instruction manual on how to execute every single part of it.
Yeah.
Because if I die tomorrow, my wife can grieve me and know to go to that box, and everything's going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's just called being responsible.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm rich. It means I'm responsible, and I've taken steps to take care of my family in my absence, and that's just being responsible. And like you were saying, you should prepare for that now, because it's a biblical principle.
Absolutely.
We're not promised tomorrow.
No.
You never know. Whether you're 5, 25, or 55, you could go at any time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's important to take those steps while you're able.
Yeah. This is really interesting because, this episode has become a little bit depressing. But the reality is, we really didn't plan like we normally do. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is what we're talking about. We knew we were going to start talking about your situation, kind of give people an update. And, the reality is what we've talked about today is necessary. It needs to be talked about more than it has been. It's something that people need to take serious.
It shouldn't be depressing.
No.
It should be sobering.
Yes.
It should be a wake-up call. Because everything that me and you talk about on this podcast, Matt, like I said, the whole crush it principle and getting up and hustling and killing it and getting, selling and closing deals and all the fun, energetic hype that we talk about. Like I said, it's not for nothing. We're not just doing it for a kick.
It's real.
It has a purpose, because one day it will come to an end. It'll shut down. Me and you will pass away.
Yeah.
Crush It podcast. Everything we built will come to an end, and when we die, whatever we've got is what our kids will inherit and carry on to their kids. And that's what we're talking about. It doesn't have to be depressing. It shouldn't be a depressing conversation.
It should almost be exciting.
It should be exciting.
That
it's a sobering thing.
We have the opportunity to leave that.
Yes. It's an opportunity to build a legacy every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's something, I know this phrase can be cliche a lot, but yesterday, at Homecraft, we have a little, it's called Band. A lot of people are familiar with that. It's kind of like a personal social media for the company.
Nice.
And I posted something on there about it being the fourth quarter. I made a statement in there that I've really thought about a lot today. The statement came to me as I was, something we've heard a lot and even said, but it came to me as I was typing out this post, and I've thought a lot about it since I posted it yesterday. 2020 has presented a lot of opposition, but it's presented even more opportunity. And we don't waste opportunity.
That's good.
And so the reality is, in this situation, we're talking about if opposition comes, but we have an opportunity to be prepared for that.
That's good.
Don't waste the opportunity that you have today to be prepared for that opposition when it comes.
That's good.
Because honestly, earlier I misspoke and said it's never too late to start planning, trying to say get started.
Right.
But the reality is, there are points where it's too late.
That's true. That's true. And that goes back, we'll wrap this thing up, we're getting a little lengthy, but that goes back to the thing that seems like we consistently circle back around to, is your mindset on this stuff.
100%.
It's all about your mindset. I could have taken this diagnosis. You could have taken your dad's death and said, you know what? I'm going to wallow in my self-pity.
Which crossed my mind.
Of course.
Multiple times.
Because there's a justified grieving period.
Yeah. Even again yesterday when the Braves won their first series, and I can't call him to talk about it.
Right.
That stuff goes, it's a mindset. You have to control your mindset.
Yeah, and you should feel those feelings
Absolutely.
And face those emotions, and that's healthy. But the thing is while you have those moments, Matt, and while I have my moments to really contemplate this diagnosis and everything like that, we don't stop hustling and building the legacy.
Ain't nobody got time
and
for
working
that.
on the dream and counting our blessings.
Yeah.
Like, it does not stop just because things are bleak or things look rough,
right,
or you get a bad diagnosis, or you lose a loved one. You got to keep pressing on. So,
Absolutely.
Guys, thanks so much for the love and the support, and accept our apologies for the gaps in the podcast episodes. We talk about it and we hate it, and like we say every episode, we will sincerely work on getting another podcast episode out sooner. We have guests that we've talked to that want to get on the podcast with us, that we really want on, that you guys would love to hear, and that is our goal. We're going to crank some episodes out, guys, throughout the end of the fourth quarter. It's our goal. We're going to try hard to do it. So thanks for sticking with us through a really crazy, tough, intense year for everybody.
Yeah. And keep, I'm sure we'll be posting this, this is Friday. We'll be posting this before Monday, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But keep Mason in your prayers next week.
Yeah.
Some intense chemo starting on Monday. Like you said, 8 hours a day.
8 hours, that's heavy dosage.
And something else we mentioned, not just him, but his wife, as she's going to be, he because of everything going on with COVID, he has to be alone up there. Yeah. Honestly, in all reality, like you said, that's probably even harder on your family than it is on you in those situations. So just keep all of them in your thoughts and prayers. But we love you guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And as you're preparing for the future, preparing for taking advantage of the opportunity before the opposition presents itself, just make sure on a day-to-day basis you're out there crushing it.
Just crush it. Later,
Crush
guys.
it!